This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. When Yehyun Kim asked if I'd be willing to be a part of her photo project on Asian Diaspora, where she set out to interview and photograph one Connecticut resident from each of the 21 Asian ethnicities, my first reaction was, "Are you sure? Me?" After digesting for a few seconds, I said yes, I'd be happy to. I don't see a lot of Taiwanese American representation, and of course, while I don't speak for all, I would love to be able to tell parts of my story with hopes that someone out there would connect with it. There was some trepidation, a sense of unease going into this. There's so much judgment and preconceptions and, quite frankly, racism out there that I'm working against. There's a box that people have already put me in, and I hope Yehyun's photo and storytelling series will help break down that box and let us bring some humanness into a space that tends to dehumanize us. I loved working with Yehyun. She made what was a very, very vulnerable experience very comfortable and, to some extent, refreshing. We talked and laughed about journalism, pop culture, all kinds of things, which is exactly what human beings do when we're having a good time. So it makes me even more excited that we'll be talking about her work today, and she joins me now. Yehyun Kim, she's a photo and video journalist who was previously just downstairs from us with the Connecticut Mirror. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. And for our listeners, you can also join our conversation, 888-720-9677, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. And we'll be talking about the project today, and you can find the project on our website at ctpublic.org/where we live or at ctmirror.org. So, I want to ask you first, can you take us to the beginning? What inspired you to start this Asian Diaspora project in the first place?
Well, at first it started with the pandemic. I saw a lot of coverages about the Asians being attacked during the pandemic, even if they're not Chinese. It doesn't mean that the Chinese can be attacked, but people considered any Asians coming from China. So seeing that, I wanted to do something. So I kept looking for what I can do to help people more understand Asians, like diverse backgrounds. And I saw this new public policy to teach Asian American Pacific Islanders history in public schools. So I thought this could be a good introduction to show the diversity and promote that it's going to happen in Connecticut.
So when you were sort of witnessing those sort of verbally violent acts and how that inspired you to do this, what was going through your mind, when you learned about it or you witnessed it, were you thinking this is kind of impossible or that doesn't feel real? What was going through your mind?
I felt bad, but because I myself experienced that too. And as I'm a journalist, I wanted to do something about it, but I thought just reporting about people getting attacked and hearing some bad words, that's important, but already other people were doing it. So I was thinking, what can I do, like something different to actually help people know this community, because I thought people get a little bit defensive when they don't really know that people or when they are not familiar. So that's what I was thinking in my head, what can I do to help reduce this alleviate this situation. Yeah.
And of course, you're a photojournalist, so this is going to be a super obvious question, but why a photo project? Can you take us through your planning stage and how that sort of took shape? Why a photo series for this?
Well, I'm a photojournalist, so photo is my storytelling tool. But I thought when you when you see actually people in like people's faces and their lives, and it included the videos. So when you see their photos in their natural settings, they feel like, oh, like it's they actually live here, and they feel more intimate, and they feel like they know you. And when, let's say, like people come across other neighbors that look similar to those people who are featured in this series, then maybe they talk to them, maybe they will say hi. So I thought it could help them feel like they can be my friends too.
And what kinds of priorities or expectations did you have going into this series? I mean, of course, we are talking about you going into the series. You want to sort of show the world what the community looks like, but what about yourself? Did you learn anything from it, or did you go into it with any expectations? What was that like for you?
Well, to be honest, I didn't I didn't start this project thinking that I will photograph these many people.
Mm-hmm.
At first, yes, my purpose was clear that it's to show the diversity and to break the stereotype that all Asians are from another one country. But I didn't at first plan to photograph 21 people from each country. Um, but as it progressed, I learned also that there are these many countries that I also didn't really know. And I also, although I'm from South Korea, I was not familiar with, say, Karen community.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I learned how diverse it is.
I mean, when you came to me and told me that you were doing a story showcasing 21 ethnicities, I remember being shocked too. Like, wow, Connecticut is such a small state and there's 21 Asian ethnicities. I was so excited. What were you most excited about actually? Was it to learn about people, to see people, or just the fact that you have 21 people and families that opened up to you to tell their stories?
Um, it's also, when I say this, it's sad and also hopeful. So when I discussed with my photo editor, Mike Davis, about how to progress this project throughout the 1 year, he suggested, Yehyun, if your purpose is to show the diversity, I think it's really important to recruit find all the 21 people from each country. So when I started this, I was not sure if I can actually do this. And it was actually a little bit hard to find all the 21 people because in Connecticut, the Asian populations are pretty spread out. But when I actually find people, very, very few people rejected. Like pretty much everyone really jumped in, saying like when I tell about the story behind why I'm doing this project, people were really relating to that cause. Like there's like, oh, I totally agree. I often get asked, although I was born here, I often get asked where I'm from. So it's a little sad that people I really jumped into the project because they felt that kind of nuanced racism before, but also hopeful that they are trying to help make the change. Yeah.
And we're also going to be hearing from another person that you profile for this project after our break. But can you tell us, what would you say was the most intimate exchange that you shared, or the most memorable exchange that you shared with somebody here?
obviously everyone was really letting me into their house. So pretty much all the situations were intimate, but it felt especially special when the current Hartford mayor, Arunan Arulampalan, led me into his house in in the early morning.
Mm,
So before I saw him only as a mayor candidate.
mm,
So
mhm.
I saw him like visiting other neighbors in Hartford. So all the public figure faces, but when he led me into his house, his his wife just walked up, and his kids were asking about all the random questions that kids would ask. They were having cereal. So looking at him interacting with his family in the early morning and seeing that natural scene, like the personal scene, that felt very intimate. Yeah.
And did it feel different because he's a public figure? So, but that doesn't mean he has to let you into his house, obviously. But what about someone who's not used to the public and who lets you into their homes or to their personal spaces to take photos because photos, it's a very vulnerable experience. But how did that make you feel that people were so welcoming?
Um, so I would say I remember me going into this church where everyone is speaking not English, not Korean. They were having this religious moment, and the priest would come. I was the like I was really a foreigner, like sitting in the back, like watching them having the service, and the priest would come and ask questions about, oh, like in a very welcoming way. So I thought I it really made me feel that if someone is really wanting to learn about your culture, like even if that culture feels very different, people are really welcoming. They're really willing to share. Before I went to the church, I was a little afraid how people would react to me being there without speaking their language. But it really made me feel actually people would love to share their culture. Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned language because I think one thing that really struck me about the series, I mean, everyone's stories are so amazing and inspirational, and I love learning about every single person that you interviewed and their families. But one thing that really jumped out to me was I think almost everyone was multilingual. And that's just amazing to me because I think learning English as a second language is incredibly I have so much respect for anyone who does that because it's such a difficult language to learn. That was something that really jumped out to me. What about you? During this process, was there something that really surprised you or shocked you about this experience?
Um, I think mm, um
Or is there something that's especially memorable that you feel like? I mean, the entire thing is memorable, so that's kind of a given. But just anything that you feel like you're going to take away from this that you'll never forget.
I think for me the second generation, it was really the a person who I photographed. He was born in the US, and what really hit me was he he was born here, but how he was trying to feel connected to his parents who are from
Mm,
different countries, who are immigrants,
mm,
by speaking his language and by eating his food, and how his father was trying to find that connection with his son, um, while still hoping that like his son would not go through the same thing as that he himself as an immigrant went through, like settling into the new country. So seeing the two aspects of the father wanting the better life for his son, but also wanting to share his originating country's culture. So that seeing that both sides, I could relate to it, and that stood out to me. Yeah.
You've been listening to Yehyun Kim. She's a freelance photo and video journalist who launched this project for the Connecticut Mirror late last year. You can find links to this project on our website at ctpublic.org/wherewelive or at ctmirror.org. We'll continue this conversation after a quick break. You can also join us, 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live.
Good morning. You're listening to Where We Live on Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Robin Doyon-Aiken from Seasoned. I'm with my colleague in the newsroom, Executive Editor Eric Assen. Hi, Eric. We are jumping in briefly to ask for your support because we know that you value what Catherine Shen and her team of producers bring you each week on Where We Live. What a feat of visual journalism the series A Diaspora in Focus is. I encourage you to go online and spend some time reading the stories and scrolling through the images. And while you're online, head over to ctpublic.org/donate because you can help us reach our goal of raising $1,000 this hour. If we do, Better Built Basements will unlock a dollar-for-dollar match of all contributions. So if we raise $1,000, Better Built Basements will turn it into $2,000. But we need your help to get there. And so if you were planning on giving later this week, why not give right now when your gift can be doubled potentially? 1-800-584-2788 is the number to call, or give online at ctpublic.org/donate. And here's Eric. Good morning.
Hey, Robin. Good to be here with you. Good morning, everyone. Great to hear from folks who aren't just listeners, but becoming members of this institution, this community asset. We're calling it the cute little 5-day membership drive. It's lasting just a week. So while it's top of mind, now is a great time to contribute at ctpublic.org, or you can call 800-584-2788. You know, we have thank you gifts to thank you for your generous contribution. And this time of year, maybe roses are on our mind because of Valentine's Day coming around the corner. Well, guess what? For $13 a month, you can get 2 dozen Valentine's Day red roses delivered to someone in your life, or perhaps yourself if you want to gift yourself. Yeah. This is for $13 a month as a sustaining member. It's a very popular thank you gift this time of year, but it's only available to reserve through Thursday. So call in and contribute right now while it's top of mind. This will arrive just in time for Valentine's Day. Farm Fresh Gathering, 24 classic red roses. Robin, not just 12 roses, but 24.
Yeah.
Go crazy, go wild, show your love for someone you love, and also show your love for Connecticut Public at the same time. ctpublic.org or call 800-584-2788.
Because you rely on what you hear on Connecticut Public's news programs and local shows to feel connected to your community, we hope you'll support us during this hour when we have the chance to double your donation. You make it possible for us to share stories about local changemakers, authors, poets, activists, and journalists like this hour. Connecting with Connecticut Public as a sustaining member of this community is easy. Call 1-800-584-2788 or go online and click that little donate button on the top right. It has a heart on it, and maybe that will make you think of getting those roses. You can find us at ctpublic.org/donate.
The best way to make an impact right now is as a sustaining membership. I was talking about those roses for $13 a month. That means just a certain amount of money is taken out of your checking account or credit card account, a little bit each month. And it's a budget-friendly way to contribute, and it's also reliable support for Connecticut Public. And when you become a sustaining member, you're joining a movement of Connecticut Public members who stand up for factual reporting and inspired storytelling. Your monthly donation may seem small, but it makes a huge difference. Believe me, believe Robin, we know firsthand when we see people contribute, whatever is right for your budget is right for Connecticut Public. But the power and the beauty of this, Robin, is when, one person contributes and others contribute, it multiplies, it amplifies, and all that money makes a big difference in paying the bills and providing the service that's indispensable, that is Connecticut Public, that you rely on each and every day. ctpublic.org or call 800-584-2788.
Yeah, Eric is describing our mission right now, and every Every day at Connecticut Public, we are on a mission to bring you the news and local talk shows that make you a little smarter, better informed, and bring a little joy into your life. And we can do it because you support it. If you support us today, the very first day of our February fund drive, there is a bonus. Everyone who gives a gift today will be entered into a giveaway for an Amazon Echo with premium sound, and sustainers are entered twice.
Nice.
Yeah. If you haven't been moved to give yet, we're asking you to give now during this hour of Where We Live. Call 1-800-584-2788 or go to ctpublic.org/donate.
So if you contribute today on the first day of the drive, you're going to be entered into the Amazon Echo giveaway. If you contribute this hour, you'll help us reach a match. There's so many reasons to give right now during the 9 o'clock hour here on Connecticut Public Radio. Here's how you do it: ctpublic.org or call 800-584-2788. And thanks.
This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. This hour, we're discussing a photo project created by Yehyun Kim. She interviewed and photographed Connecticut residents with Asian roots, yours truly included. The series celebrates Asianness and also confronts the temptation to oversimplify what that really means. Joining the conversation is another person Yehyun profiled for this project, Jenny Heikkila Díaz, or JHD. They are a professional learning coordinator for Connecticut Council for the Social Studies and the activist in residence at UConn's Asian and Asian American Studies Institute. They're also co-founder of AAPI NHV, a recently formed New Haven organization. Thank you so much, JHD, for being on Where We Live today.
Thanks for having me.
And still with us is Yehyun Kim, who's the photo and video journalist for this project. And you can also join the conversation, 888-720-9677, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So, JHD, you were also a part of Yehyun's photojournalist or journalism project. Can you take us through your experience? You know, what was some of your expectations you had when she reached out to you?
Well, when Yehyun first asked me to be a part of it, I had sort of a similar thought to you. Am I the right person for this? I think there's tension between representing your community or communities and representing yourself, often when you're asked to do things like this. So for me, as a biracial person, as a Korean American, as an Asian American, just to name some of my identities, I felt like, oh, you're only doing one profile of one person in the Korean American community, and that could be me. And I think this goes to some of the things that are really insidious about stereotypes and internalized supremacy, such as white supremacy. We're socialized to believe that certain stories are worthy, and the question is my story worthy to be told and shared? I'm unlearning a lot of these things about the meritocracy myth and the model minority myth. So I'm always concerned about not wanting to contribute to this monolithic way that the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities portrayed. So the question definitely came up for me. What's so special about my story that it deserves to be the one that gets included about Korean Americans and one of a set about Asian Americans in Connecticut? I put a lot of stress on myself, definitely, when she asked me to participate in this.
Right. And that's not surprising because you're right. You have so many identities. It's not just embodied in one. And that's sort of the box that we talk about, too, is it's not just one single thing that you check off. It's so many things, like so many people. And I think with your photo series, what makes it so special, too, is it's also very intergenerational. So can you take us back to that experience? Because I think it builds on what you're talking about. It's not just your identity, it's your family's identity. And I know we can talk for days on that, but it was on your child Gabriella's 6th birthday. Can you talk about what that experience was like?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were talking about what the profile could be, I wanted it to be an intergenerational one because I think that also helps sort of flesh out why my family is special within these different communities that we're a part of. We were struggling to find a date, so we ended up deciding to have Yehyun join my family. So my mom's cousins, who I call uncle and aunt, and then my children and Michael and me, for a meal that we were having that day together. And I think the really great thing for me in this situation was that I actually had met Yehyun before this project. My kids and I had gone to, we like to do community mural painting in New Haven whenever we can. It's really fun and it's meaningful and it's a way to learn about our community in community. And so we had joined this beautiful mural project in the Hill neighborhood that a really talented local artist, Isaac Bloodworth, had been working on, and that my friend Sun Queen had contributed some words to. So we'd gone to paint, and that's actually the day that I met Yehyun, and we had this great conversation. I'm purposely sort of taking you down this road because I think it helps paint why it was so easy for me to invite her to come to a special moment like that. So anyway, that conversation, I think she's a really remarkable and deliberate and beautiful storyteller. She talked to my kids and me and Isaac about the mural, and then also just like my older kid Magdalena went and took this puppet she'd made. Isaac happens to also be a puppet maker, and it was of my halmoni, my mother's mother, my grandmother on my Korean side of my family. And we had all these wonderful conversations that sort of just led to another thing and another thing and another thing that day. And so I think that's why it was very easy for me to be like, yes, you should come and join us to celebrate my child's 6th birthday, because I already felt really comfortable, and she had made me feel like all these stakes that I was sort of making up that might be stakes in this conversation, in this project, they weren't there that day. So it was really great. Like even little things like, if you look at my profile, we got into this conversation, Yehyun got into this conversation with Magdalena about books, and Magdalena happened to bring a book down from like a pile of books that was about Asian Americans, but it wasn't like, because of a leading question, right? Or because assumptions about what storylines do we have to bring in, or what themes do we have to speak on. And I found that sometimes happens when we're talking. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to an Asian American or a non-Asian American. We have these sound bites that we listen for. We have these questions that we think we're supposed to ask. And I think that's not the experience that I had as being a part of this project, which was, as to use your word from earlier, refreshing.
And I mean, I use refreshing for a reason, and I think it reflects your own experience as well. I think we went into this both feeling like, oh, there might be a certain kind of expectation, but I had a similar experience where I had met Yehyun before this project as well. So at the end of the day, I really went in with no expectations, and Yehyun will attest to this. You know, she came to me. We were originally going to talk about journalism and what it means to be an Asian American journalist, and we ended up really not talking about that at all. We, like you said, we talked about all of the things, and we ended up going on this black hole about pop culture, which is something that I would definitely want to revisit at some point. But JHD, I want to ask, because of what you described, the refreshing experiences, you know, do you think these are sort of cultural nuances or just a part of the storytelling that needs to be told to sort of let the world know that we're just human beings, we're not just subjects? You know, what are your thoughts about that?
I think yes, that I think this is the part of the work that we have to do in our like unlearning and undoing of these sort of monolithic myths about many different communities, right? That stories are complicated. Each person's story is going to be different, even if they share lots of identities. And I think that's the work that this is why this project that Yehyun put together is such an important and special resource, And I don't like to tag it as resource, but it really is a beautiful contribution to the work that we're trying to do in schools around Asian American and Pacific Islander studies. There is no like perfect set of stories that we can give to almost 170 communities that we have in Connecticut, right? Like there has to be a lot of nuance, and there has to be a responsiveness to who is in that community and who is not in that community. And I think that's why I didn't really get how amazing a Diaspora in Focus was going to be in terms of how well it matched with what we're trying to accomplish in the AAPI studies work that we're doing across the state until I started reading the first part of the East Asian installment, and I started reading A.G. Tong's profile. And as I went through each one, I started to realize like, this is what we're trying to do with students in the oral historian work that I've been doing with teachers, where students come up with questions and teachers work together with the people that they bring into their classrooms. And the students learn, they learn questioning, they learn note-taking, but most importantly, they're also learning to really listen to someone's story and to hold it and honor it, and then tell it the way the person wants it to be told. And so I can't even say thank you enough for her work on this project. It's been tremendous, and I'm really thankful to have been a part of it too.
Well, and I want to ask you what your thoughts were when you saw the photos, but I'll give you a moment to think about that. But I want to ask Yehyun really quick here. I'm sure it's something you hear a lot probably when you approach somebody about video or a photo project, that it could be uncomfortable, or if you're talking to a certain person of a certain ethnicity, especially with what JHD mentioned earlier, particularly when they feel like they have to represent their background or heritage. So Yehyun, can you talk about how did you go about framing this story? How did you make sure that everyone was comfortable and that they can talk about what they want to talk about?
Well, I think if you say that you are representing your culture, I think it'll be really hard to say, oh, okay, I can represent. So
sure.
I think that's I wouldn't say like that, but because as you guys said, one person has a lot of aspects. So I would just say, I just want to get to know you as a person. And the questions that come to me are not about their ethnicity. It's about their life, and people are willing to share at least their story. And when I start asking about their life, it essentially involves elements about their ethnicity and immigrant background or their parents' background. So when I put it that way, people start to talk and they realize, oh, I have things to share. And then it starts flowing naturally. Yeah.
And so, JHD, you and I both shared and flowed with Yehyun, and she has photographed you and your children before. So I want to ask, how was that experience of seeing those photos in print or digitally? Did it change your own experience of that moment, and how did you feel seeing the final photos for this series?
So for the mural, I knew it was a beautiful experience and I appreciated it, but it was really lovely to see the photos afterwards because I also had this lingering thing about if you've seen the photos, my kids really got paint all over them and then managed to get paint all over me, and that dress had to get thrown out. But it was really lovely to have those photos to remember and focus on the bigger picture of that beautiful memory. And then for the Diaspora in Focus project, that profile, I was actually looking at the photos again yesterday, and I think there's the sort of traditional sort of photograph of some of my family that was included, which was a really lovely photo. But I also loved the smaller moments photos too, like even the one of my uncle saying bye to Gabriella when they were walking out the door. So it was like capturing all the moments in a really lovely, but not like here is the sort of narration you should expect in a story kind of way, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, it totally makes sense. And with what you just shared, I actually want to ask, what else about this experience was refreshing? Because I think the way you described it, it sounds like an experience that should be expected, but there's reasons why it wasn't expected, because usually you go into these things sort of, should I say, guarded, or you have a certain level of expectations, but that didn't happen. So what else about it was refreshing to you?
I think it goes back to what I was saying about there not being sort of like leading questions. And I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm like blaming other people,
Sure.
because I think I go into it with expectations too from past experiences. And like I was saying before, sort of the ways that I've been socialized, right,
Right.
as well. But I think that's what it was, is that it really was a conversation. And in some ways, I felt like it picked up on another conversation that we had prior. And so it really didn't feel like we had an agenda. It really didn't feel that way the entire time. And that also meant that the time kind of flew. So definitely like a special moment to hold on to.
Right. And we know time always flies when you're having fun, having those unique memories created. And Yehyun, you've been listening to what JHD has said. We'd love really quickly before we go to break, your response to what JHD has shared.
Well, speaking of Mirror project, that's also part of why I started this project. When JHD was telling her children in Korean about things I overheard, and I could sense that she was very engaged in the community, and I kept hearing Korean, and that also broke my stereotype that I didn't realize I had about Asian Americans, and that just made me want to talk to her and get to know more about what she's engaged in. So yes, that was really memorable for me. Yeah.
Well, we're really glad that you've had those conversations together, which means we can have this conversation together today. You've been listening to photo and video journalist Yehyun Kim, and also JHD, who's a professional learning coordinator for Connecticut Council for the Social Studies. You can find links to this project on our website at ctpublic.org/wherewelive or at ctmirror.org. And we'll continue this conversation after a quick break. You can also join in. Give us a call, 888-720-9677, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. This hour, we're discussing the photo project, A Diaspora in Focus. And disclaimer, I was profiled in the series as well. In addition to Jenny Heikkila Díaz, or JHD, they join us now, along with the creator and photo and video journalist behind the project, Yehyun Kim. And so, JHD, I want to start this segment off with you. We've talked a little bit about the project that was linked to the landmark legislation in Connecticut that will require AAPI history in public schools as of the 2025-26 school year. So we know you're involved in the curriculum development here in Connecticut, including this new AAPI curriculum that's set to roll out soon. So do you see, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but do you see the series as a possible teaching tool, and why is that, JHD?
I mean, I'm going to echo some of the things I said earlier about
Sure.
about how the profiles really allow for the different individuals to share about our communities, but also do it in a way that that's really connected to them as people and community members. So I think the way the storytelling was done both through the photographs and through the words is what we're trying to do with students in schools and the work that we're doing with the AAPI studies integration. I think there's ways so we're going to have to coordinate, right, on how we do this. But I think there are ways to use pieces or the totality of it, of a diaspora in focus across schools. I think our children are both into words and pictures and having experiences with those together, no matter their age. And so there are ways to, like, maybe the text is too complicated for a younger learner, but you can rely on the photos and some of the themes that you pull out from the text to use it for younger learners. But maybe your high school students can actually take on the entire profile as is. So I think there are ways to utilize it, like I was saying, as a resource. And then I think it fits really well with, like I said, not just the storytelling, holding stories, honoring stories, telling stories through the words that the person whose story it is actually wants it to be told. But it also connects really well with the social studies standards, the newly approved as of last October content standards, because if you look at those standards, there are places where Asian Americans are called out specifically in examples, for instance. But these profiles really have that. They're very social studies friendly, in that they have that connection between past, present, and future in a way that makes the learning that our students experience in school so much more meaningful. Whether they connect to the identities in the profile or not, I think it's a valuable set of resources for all of our children. And then I'll just point out too, in the social studies standards, that you'll see those interwoven content themes of global context, local connections, representation, inclusivity, justice, and agency throughout the Diaspora in Focus project. So it's amazing what's contained in this one project in terms of what we can do with it in schools.
Right.
And not just for API studies either. Like, if you think about it in the grander scheme of ensuring that we have everyone as part of what we learn in schools.
Right. And I think it's really difficult to read the stories and not think about it from an education standpoint, just because this is so in the forefront of our minds. Can you give a quick update on that curriculum, or any updates that you can give us?
Sure. I mean, we've been working on it since even before the legislation passed, right? Because I think there have been many folks interested in making sure that our schools are teaching the full history of our country and the world. And so in terms of the shorter time that I've been involved in it, we've run a few different communities of practice with different groups of teachers. There's a couple running right now in Connecticut. I know I'm doing one in partnership with a few different organizations, including the International Festival of Arts and Ideas, and with UConn Asian and Asian American Studies Institute, where I work as an activist in residence. And so in New Haven, the community practice I'm working on is actually building off of the work that we did a couple years ago for The Best We Could Do. And we're connecting it to a documentary made by a local family called Ghost Mountain as well. So we're doing some really interesting work at the high school level to ensure AAPI studies integration, and that's happening with library and media specialists, English teachers, and history teachers in New Haven. So that's just one example of one of the many different pieces that we're working on.
And so we've got about a minute left here, so I'm going to ask Yehyun for some final thoughts. Would you like to see this project in the classroom in Connecticut?
I would love to. And I would love students to feel more connected and to realize that, that's part of me and it's around my neighborhood. Yeah.
And 30 seconds left. I would love to know, how does it feel when you saw your culmination of a whole year of hard work together out there?
it was like my baby coming out. After working on it for 1 year, I was yeah, it was really thrilling to see it happening.
Well, we are thrilled that you're willing to share that conversation with us. And again, for our listeners, you can find links to this project on our website at ctpublic.org/wherewelive or at ctmirror.org. You can also find more information on social media for Asian Pacific American Coalition of Connecticut. You've been listening to photo and video journalist Yehyun Kim. Thank you so much, Yehyun, for being with us today, as well as Jenny Heikkila Díaz, or JHD, who's a professional learning coordinator for the Connecticut Council for the Social Studies. Thank you, both of you, for joining us today. I'm Catherine Shen. Today's show is produced by Katie Pellico. Our technical producer is Kat Pastor. Download Where We Live anytime on your favorite podcast app, and thank you so much for listening.
Good morning. It's 9:55. Thank you so much for listening to Connecticut Public Radio. And now is a great time to support Connecticut Public Radio with the membership campaign underway. It's a week long. We're calling it the Cute Little Membership Campaign. I'm Eric Austin here with Robin Doyon-Aiken, and another great hour of Where We Live. And whatever reason you listen to Where We Live, that's the reason you should give right now with the membership campaign off to a great start. It's day one of the membership campaign. And here's how you can contribute. Join the momentum by calling 800-584-2788. Again, 800-584-2788, or online at ctpublic.org. And Robin, good morning.
Good morning. We have a goal of $1,000, and if we are able to meet that goal, Better Built Basements will match it. So whatever amount you think you're giving in the next 5 minutes, you're actually giving double that, because Eric and I are only $8 away from our goal.
So close, folks.
I know. If you could right now jump on the phone, 1-800-584-2788 is the number to call. Or if you're online, ctpublic.org/donate. And you can give any amount right now, and you will be helping us to meet our goal and match that bonus gift.
I want to thank so many people who have called or gone online with the contributions this hour. There are so many people to thank. Want to thank a friend in New Haven, another friend in New Haven. Want to thank Jean Rue in East Hartford, who says, I always support Connecticut Public because it's the only thing I listen to. You are so far ahead any other station. You are excellent. Well, Jean, you are excellent too.
Yeah.
Thank you for renewing your membership. Thanks to Jill Kovalich of Newington, who says, I listen every morning with my coffee. Thanks to Mark Devon of Enfield. Thanks to Evelyn Eisenhart of Glastonbury. Thanks to Katie Lund of Mystic. And thanks to some friends in Shelton and Burlington. And they are all helping Robin reach this goal for the hour of $1,000. And they're all going to be entered into this great giveaway for the day.
That's right. If you are giving a gift today or a call, hopefully with a pledge, you will be entered to win a Amazon Echo situation. What is that? It has premium sound.
Sweet, swanky premium sound with Amazon Echo.
Will sound even better than we normally do on the other way you listen. 1-800-584-2788 is the number you can call to be entered into that giveaway, or ctpublic.org/donate.
And if you're looking for a great thank you gift, it's Valentine's Day around the corner, so a lot of folks are choosing this as a thank you gift. 2 dozen, not just 1 dozen, 2 dozen Valentine's Day red roses. Yes, they are red. They are farm fresh, 24 classic red roses. It will arrive on February 13th, so it'll get to the person you care about a day before Valentine's Day. Roses arrive boxed and ready in a favorite vase. It's only available to reserve through Thursday, so do it right now while it's top of mind. Contribute right now. Show your love for the person you love, and show love for Connecticut Public. We thank you so much for your support. That's for $13 a month as a sustaining member. Whatever you can contribute, we appreciate it. ctpublic.org, ctpublic.org.